I paid for my parents' nursing care for 5 years, then found out the house is now in my sister's name. That sentence still makes my stomach turn. It's not even the money. Not really. It's the way they all looked at me after, like I was overreacting. Like betrayal was just some unfortunate paperwork glitch. But let me rewind, because stories like this don't start with the signature on a deed. They start way before that. In our case, it started in 2015, the day my dad slipped on the back porch steps and cracked his hip. I remember getting that call like it just happened. I was at work, closing up at the shop. My phone buzzed, and it was Mom. She never called me at work unless it was serious. "Your father fell. He's at the hospital. I don't know what to do, honey." That was the moment everything shifted. One day I'm living my life, running a small landscaping business, single, scraping by, trying to pay off my mortgage. Next day, I'm coordinating with hospital social workers, insurance agents, and physical therapists. Dad couldn't walk for months. Then came the bed sores, the rehab, the setbacks, and somewhere in all that, it became clear he wasn't going back to normal. Neither was Mom. Her memory had started slipping too, little things at first. But stress made it worse. That's what her doctor said. She forgot medications, left the stove on, repeated stories like they were on a loop. So I stepped in. Because someone had to. My sister, Denise, lived 3 hours away in a sleek condo with her husband, Phil. She worked in finance. Big money. Big opinions. Very little time. "You're just better at this caregiving stuff," she said when I asked if she could take a weekend. "You're local. And honestly, they listen to you more." I told myself it was fine. That I could manage. That it wouldn't be forever. Just until they stabilized. I sold my truck to cover the cost of their first home aid. When that wasn't enough, I dipped into my savings. The money I was putting aside for my own house renovations went to walkers, prescriptions, adult diapers. Then came the full-time facility. We had no choice. "This is temporary," I said, writing the first check to the nursing home. But temporary became routine. 5 years of routine. 5 years of Sunday visits, of sorting through insurance paperwork, of navigating Medicaid rejections and rate hikes. Denise sent a card at Christmas, sometimes flowers on their birthdays. But the bills, the long nights, the guilt when I couldn't be there after work, that was all me. Every few months, I'd send Denise an update. She'd always respond the same way. "Thanks for keeping me in the loop. Let me know if anything major comes up." Then, last winter, Mom passed. Quietly, in her sleep. And 2 months later, Dad followed. The grief hit me in waves, like sudden cold winds. One minute I'd be fine. The next I was crying into a frozen dinner. Denise didn't even make it to Dad's funeral. "Flight issues," she texted. That was all. Afterward, I started sorting through the estate paperwork. I was the executor. Dad and Mom's wills were simple. Everything to be divided evenly between us. The house, the car, the savings. All of it. Clean and fair. That's when the lawyer blinked. "Actually," he said, flipping through a separate folder, "this deed here, it shows the house was transferred to Denise back in 2019. I stared at him. "What do you mean transferred?" "Your father signed a quitclaim deed. Gave her full ownership." "That's not possible." He would have told me. The lawyer shook his head. "It was notarized. Witnessed. All legal." My stomach dropped. I felt like I'd been punched in the lungs. 5 years I paid those nursing bills. 5 years I kept the lights on, the medicine flowing, the chaos contained. And she never said a word. I called Denise that night. "Oh, right," she said, like I was asking about a hair appointment. "Yeah, Dad gave me the house. Said it was the least he could do since you weren't taking over the mortgage." I was silent. "Don't be dramatic," she added. "It's not like you ever wanted the house anyway." I hung up without another word. But inside, something cracked. And for the first time in 5 years, I let myself feel it all. The grief didn't hit me like a wave. It hit like bricks. Heavy. Stacked. One memory after another falling on top of me while I sat there, in the dark, unable to breathe. I didn't sleep. Didn't eat. Just stared at the ceiling, imagining every dinner I delivered, every medication I picked up, every time I showed up for them while Denise stayed distant and polished. I thought about going to the lawyer, contesting it, but I already knew what he'd say. Legal is legal. What no one tells you is betrayal doesn't always arrive with shouting or slamming doors. Sometimes it shows up in silence, in a sister's smug shrug, in a line on a deed. The next morning, I drove to the house. I wasn't even sure why. Maybe to prove it was still real. Maybe to say goodbye. I pulled into the driveway and saw her Audi already parked out front. She was on the porch, looking around with this air of entitlement, like a queen returning to her kingdom. Planning the renovations already? I asked. She jumped a little, then smiled. Well, I figured I should assess the property. You know, value's gone up a lot since they bought it. I didn't reply. I just walked past her and opened the door with my old key. The house smelled the same. A little musty, a little cinnamon. Like Sundays and safety. I wandered to the living room, touched the worn arm of Dad's recliner. My fingers curled around the soft patch I stitched after the cat clawed it. My patch. My memory. Denise came in behind me. I was thinking of tearing down the wall here. Open concept. Maybe resell it to a young couple. My jaw clenched. They're not even cold in the ground. Oh, come on. Don't be melodramatic. They wouldn't want the house to rot. I looked at her. Really looked. Did you ever visit? Besides holidays? She blinked. I sent money. No. You sent tulips and texts. I paid for the care. The bills. The everything. She crossed her arms. It's not a competition. You're right, I said, stepping closer. Because if it were, you wouldn't even place. She scoffed, brushing past me. Look, if you want the house so bad, maybe we can work out a buyout. I'm reasonable. You want me to buy what I already paid for? She shrugged. It's business. No, it was betrayal. And she didn't even see it. I didn't shout, didn't fight. But as I left the house that day, I made a promise. If Denise thought this was over, she didn't know me at all. I didn't call her. Not for days. Instead, I started digging. I requested copies of the quitclaim deed, the notary logs, even the county filing. I don't know what I was hoping for. Some clerical error, a signature that didn't match, anything I could use to unravel this mess. But it was airtight. My father had signed. Denise had filed it. Everything was above board. Legal. But legal doesn't mean moral. And it sure as hell doesn't mean fair. I talked to Aunt May. She was always close to Dad. One of the few people who never treated me like the backup son. She didn't even know about the transfer. That doesn't sound like your father, she said, folding laundry with a vengeance. He talked all the time about splitting things evenly. Said it was important. Fairness, he called it. Then why would he do this? She shrugged. Denise could sell snow to a snowman. You know that. She probably made it sound like you were too busy or didn't want the house. He should have asked me. He should have, she agreed. But maybe he didn't want the fight. Or maybe he thought he was helping her. Helping her. That stuck in my teeth like a splinter. Denise didn't need help. She had a career, a husband, 2 incomes, vacations twice a year. The only person who needed help was me, and I never asked. Maybe that was my mistake. Later that week, I drove past the house again. Just once. Denise had already changed the locks. There was a for sale sign in the yard. She hadn't even waited a full month. I parked down the street and just watched it. My childhood. My parents. My effort. My sweat. My weekends and weeknights. All about to be flipped for a profit. I texted her. Hope the commission's worth it. She replied instantly. You're being childish. I didn't respond. Instead, I called the realtor listed on the sign. Said I was interested in the property. Asked about the seller. Got the usual spiel. Motivated, flexible, looking to move quickly. Of course she was. I hung up, staring at the phone. And an idea began to form. If Denise wanted to treat this like business, fine. I'd make it business. I'd take every receipt, every invoice, every bank statement from the past 5 years and build my own case. Not a legal one. A moral one. One I could send to the whole family. Let them see who really carried the load. Who kept the lights on when everyone else disappeared. Let's see how she likes it when her golden reputation gets a little tarnish. She may have gotten the house, but I still had the truth. And I was finally ready to speak it. The thing about family is, they remember. Not always the good stuff. But the scandals? The betrayals? Those echo. So when I started compiling everything, the bank statements, the hospice bills, even emails confirming I was the one coordinating care, I didn't stop at just filing them away. I printed them, annotated them, highlighted every instance where my money, my time, my sweat had kept Mom and Dad afloat. It wasn't about revenge. Not exactly. It was about truth. About making sure the record was set straight before Denise could spin it into her usual narrative. That she was the responsible one, the organized one, the daughter who handled things. I knew how she operated. Always 2 steps ahead with a smile. Polished emails, Instagram-ready grief, just enough charity to make people forget the dirt under her manicured nails. But not this time. This time, I made copies of everything and stuffed them into manila envelopes. One for Aunt May, one for Uncle Theo, one for each cousin who showed up at the funerals and patted Denise on the back like she was some kind of saint for flying in last minute and delivering a 2-minute eulogy. I wrote a letter to go with each packet. No bitterness, no name-calling, just the facts. While Denise received full ownership of the house in 2019, I continued paying for our parents' care in full, unaware of the transfer. The attached documents detail the financial records, correspondence, and decisions made during that time. I share this not to shame anyone, but to correct the narrative. I mailed them all on a Thursday, 2 days before the open house. Yeah, she was holding an open house. There it was, in bold font on Zillow. Charming family home with historic charm, lovingly maintained. Seller motivated. Lovingly maintained. I nearly threw my coffee. Saturday morning, I parked 3 blocks away. I didn't want to start something. I just needed to see it. And there it was. Denise on the porch in a beige trench coat, greeting couples like she was running for office. There was even a tray of cookies. She played the part perfectly, but she didn't see me. Not yet. I stood by a tree, half-shadowed, watching her rehearse her lines. Great neighborhood, excellent bones, this place has heart. Heart. This was the same woman who hadn't changed a single bandage, hadn't made a single late-night drive to the ER. And then it happened. A woman I didn't recognize pulled up in a navy Subaru, got out slowly, walked up the path, squinting, and then I saw her face. Mrs. Palmer, our next-door neighbor from when I was 6. The woman who used to bring over casseroles when Mom was too tired to cook. Denise didn't recognize her, just smiled and extended a hand. Hi, welcome. Are you here for the open? But Mrs. Palmer cut her off. I know what you did. Denise blinked. I'm sorry. You let your brother carry everything. And then you took the house. Shame on you. I couldn't hear what came next, but I didn't need to. Denise's smile cracked like a porcelain mask. She looked around, suddenly flustered. Spotted me by the tree. Her face froze. I just stared back. Didn't smile. Didn't wave. Just let her feel the weight of it. Truth doesn't always need a microphone. Sometimes it just needs a witness. Denise didn't call me for a week. No texts. No emails. Not even a passive-aggressive meme. Her favorite form of non-confrontational warfare. I half expected her to go nuclear, maybe even try to paint me as unstable to the rest of the family. But all I got was silence. Until Monday. I was back at the shop, catching up on invoices and pretending like my world hadn't just cracked open. My phone buzzed. It was a message from her. Lunch. Just that. No greeting. No context. I stared at the screen for a full minute before replying. Where? She chose the fancy cafe halfway between her city and my town. The kind of place where the waiters call you sir, even when you're wearing work boots. I showed up in my stained flannel and jeans anyway. I wasn't here to impress. I was here to end this. She was already seated when I arrived. Hair curled, makeup perfect, sipping something green and overpriced. Her sunglasses were still on. I didn't sit right away. You wanted to talk, I said. She looked up, took the glasses off slowly. You blindsided me. I told the truth. To everyone? You mean the people who thought you paid for Mom and Dad's care while you were actually collecting real estate? She flinched. Just a bit. I didn't do it to hurt you, she said. I did what Dad asked. No, you did what benefited you. There's a difference. She sighed and finally waved at the waiter. Can we not do this in public? I pulled out a chair and Saturday sure. Let's pretend. Just like you did for 5 years. Her eyes narrowed. You're acting like I stole something. You did. I took a house. You're acting like I took your childhood. No, I said, leaning in. You took our parents' trust and turned it into profit. That's worse. The waiter came by. We both waved him off. Denise leaned forward, voice low. You really want to keep this war going? Because I have just as much to say about you. Oh, what? That I didn't go to college. That I fix sprinklers for a living? Say it. I dare you. She swallowed hard. Looked away. That's what I thought, I said. For a moment, it was quiet. Then she spoke again. You think I had it easy? With Phil's layoffs, the miscarriages, the pressure to look perfect all the time? I blinked. That one hit. She'd never told me any of that. Why didn't you say something? Because you were always the favorite, she said quietly. Even when you didn't try. They never stopped worrying about you. I let out a bitter laugh. They worried because I was the one cleaning up messes, not because I needed saving. We stared at each other, two grown adults with 10 lifetimes of baggage between us. And then I said it. You can keep the house. Her eyes widened. But you'll tell the truth. To everyone. About what I did. About what you didn't. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay. And you'll cut me a check. For half the proceeds, when it sells. That's not for me. That's to prove you're still human. She didn't speak for a long time. Just looked at her cup like she wanted to drown in it. Then she said, "Deal." I stood up, tossed a 20 on the table I didn't know, and walked out. She still had the house. But I had my dignity. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. The check came 2 weeks later. It wasn't ceremonious. No apology note, no phone call. Just an envelope in my mailbox with a typed return address and my name written in a handwriting I barely recognized anymore. Inside was a cashier's check. Half the sale proceeds, down to the cent, along with a single line written on a sticky note. You were right. That was it. No fireworks. No hugs or tearful reconciliation. Just those 3 words. And honestly, it was enough. Because something had shifted. Not in Denise, not really. But in me. I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for acknowledgement, not for permission, and definitely not for closure served up on a silver platter. I deposited the check the next morning. I didn't tell anyone. Not Aunt May, not my coworkers, not even the bartender I sometimes vented to after a long week. It was mine. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel guilty about that. The next few weeks were quieter. I kept working, kept showing up, but my steps felt lighter, my chest less tight. I started making plans again, not for the future, exactly, but for now. Little things. Repainting the back room of the shop. Calling an old friend I hadn't seen in years. Fixing the broken step on my own porch that I'd ignored for too long. Grief still came in waves. It always does. A song on the radio. A commercial with a hospital scene. The scent of my mom's favorite hand lotion, rising unexpectedly from a stranger in line at the pharmacy. But when those moments hit, I let them. I didn't run, didn't bury them under work or obligations. I sat with them, let the tears come when they needed to. And then I kept going. That's healing. Not some magical finish line, but the decision to keep walking even when the path's still muddy. One Saturday, I drove out to the old house. Just once more. The for sale sign was gone. So were the curtains in the front room. A young couple was unloading boxes onto the front lawn. The woman had a baby strapped to her chest. The man looked up and waved when he saw me slow down. I waved back. He jogged over to my truck. "Hey, you from around here?" "Used to be," I said. "We just moved in. It's got a lot of, well, charm. And work." "Yeah," I said, smiling. "It does." He glanced back at the house. "You know the people who lived here?" "My parents," I said. "Long time ago." He nodded, like he understood. "We'll take good care of it." "I know you will." I drove off, the rearview mirror catching one last glimpse of the porch, stripped of the chipping paint, but still there. Still standing. Some things you let go of. And some things, they stay with you. In memories. In lessons. In quiet victories no one else will ever see. But you know, and that's enough. It's funny what you notice after a storm passes. The things still standing. The ones that didn't crack under pressure. And the debris, broken pieces that used to be something whole. That was me, in a way. A little cracked. Still standing. After the house sold and the check cleared, Denise disappeared again. No surprise. But I wasn't holding my breath for a birthday call or holiday card. I didn't want fake gestures. What I wanted was what I'd already gotten. Truth, acknowledgement, and peace. But life's not always done with you just because you think the chapter's closed. One night, around mid-November, I got another call. From Phil. Yeah, Denise's husband. I hadn't talked to him in years. The last time I saw him, he was balancing a wine glass and talking crypto nonsense at some Thanksgiving I barely remembered. "Hey," he said, voice low, almost embarrassed. "I know it's weird me calling, but I didn't know who else to talk to." "What's going on?" "It's Denise," he said. "She's not doing great." My body tensed. "What do you mean?" "She's been different since the sale. Withdrawn. Short-tempered. She quit her job last week. Just walked out. We had a fight last night, and she said something like, 'She thinks you hate her forever.'" I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to shrug and say, "Well, maybe I do." But I didn't. Because I didn't. Not really. Hurt doesn't always equal hate. Sometimes it's just hurt. Have her call me, I said. She won't. I think she's scared. I paused. Then, tell her I'm not waiting for an apology, but I am still her brother. He let out a breath. Thanks, man. We hung up. I didn't expect anything to change. And for a while, nothing did. Until a week before Christmas. I came home from the shop to find a package on my porch. No name, no return address. Just a small box with a single note inside. For the room you never got to fix. Inside was a light switch plate, brass, hand-etched with a tree design. The kind my mom used to love. I stared at it for a long time. Didn't cry. Didn't call. Just turned on the porch light and stood there a while. Sometimes reconciliation isn't loud. It doesn't come with music swells or dramatic embraces. Sometimes it's just a small, beautiful thing. Quiet. Earned. Left on your doorstep. Christmas came quietly that year. No big gatherings. No long tables filled with loud opinions and louder relatives. Just me, a small roasted chicken, and some records spinning soft blues into the corners of my kitchen. I didn't expect anything. Honestly, I liked it that way. Simple. Uncomplicated. Grief still sat beside me, but not like a weight anymore. More like a guest. One I'd learned to cook for, to sit with. Around 9 p.m. The doorbell rang. I thought maybe it was a neighbor or one of those overly optimistic carolers. But when I opened the door, Denise was standing there. No makeup, no trench coat, just a hoodie and jeans and puffy eyes that hadn't slept. Hey, she said. I stepped aside. You want to come in? She nodded and walked past me, straight to the kitchen like muscle memory. Looked at the table. The half-eaten dinner. The single plate. Looks good, she said softly. It was. She didn't sit. Just leaned against the counter, fingers fidgeting. I didn't know what to bring, she said. So I didn't. You didn't have to. Silence. Then, do you hate me? It wasn't dramatic. Just raw. Like a kid asking if they broke something too badly to fix. I shook my head. No. I just didn't recognize you for a while. She closed her eyes, nodding like she'd been waiting to hear that. I messed up. I thought I could control it all. The grief. The guilt. The money. And when I couldn't, I just shut down. I know. She finally sat. Across from me. Same spot Mom used to take when she'd tell us stories about how she met Dad. I talked to Phil, I said. He's worried about you. I left him. That one hit like a low punch. Why? Because I realized I don't know who I am anymore. And I didn't want to find out through someone else's lens. I needed to reset. I nodded. Didn't fill the silence. Just let it hang there. Then she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a photo. It was us. On the porch. Me at 9, her at 12. Halloween. She was a pirate. I was a ghost. Dad had taken the picture. I found this in one of Mom's boxes, she said. Thought maybe you should have it. I took it, fingers tracing the edge. I remember that night, I said. You gave me your candy corn because I dropped mine. She smiled. You cried so hard. I thought you'd melt. We both laughed. Soft, tired, but real. That night, she didn't stay. Just said thank you. Hugged me once. Not long, not awkward, and left with her hands in her pockets. But as I watched her walk down the steps, I didn't feel the ache I used to. Didn't feel like something was missing. Because I'd stopped waiting for her to fix it. And she'd finally stopped pretending nothing was broken. Sometimes that's as close as you get to forgiveness. And sometimes it's enough. Spring came earlier than usual. Not just on the calendar. In the air. In the way the sunlight didn't just touch things, it warmed them. I found myself out back more often. Clearing the shop's gravel lot. Replanting the raised bed behind the fence. I even took a few pro bono jobs for some elderly clients. The kind of folks who still mailed checks and offered you lemonade in March. I wasn't doing it for karma. I was just breathing again. Denise started texting me. Not often. Just little things. Do you still have that lasagna recipe Mom used? Was Dad allergic to bee stings, or just overdramatic? Phil's dog peed on my shoes. I think this is the universe telling me to stay single. I replied, sometimes with one word, sometimes with paragraphs. But every message was a thread, weaving something back between us, even if it wasn't what it used to be. One Sunday, she sent a voice memo. I listened to it twice before answering. I'm thinking of starting over. Not just geography, like really starting over. Different work. Less pressure. More truth. Maybe something with meaning. That one made me sit down. She was trying. We all come to healing differently. Some people scream into the void. Some people throw money at the damage. And some people, like Denise, quietly change the furniture in their soul until it fits who they want to become. I didn't tell her what to do. I just said, start wherever you are. That's enough. Weeks passed, and then one day she showed up at the shop. No warning. Just walked in, wearing sneakers and carrying 2 coffees. Thought maybe you'd show me how to pot something without killing it, she said. I handed her gloves. Let's start with not overwatering. That's where most people go wrong. We spent 2 hours repotting succulents. She was terrible at it. Soil everywhere. But she smiled. And I realized this was new. Not a redo of our childhood. Not a forced amends. Just 2 adults. Learning each other again. That night, I found the photo she gave me, the Halloween one, and pinned it to the wall by my desk. Not as a memorial, but as a mile marker of who we were and how far we'd come. 1 year later, I stood in front of a different house. Not the old one. Not the shop. This one was mine. Really mine. A small fixer-upper on the edge of town, with peeling paint and a garden that looked more like a jungle. But it was quiet. Solid. And it didn't carry anyone else's ghosts but mine. I bought it with the money from the house sale. The one Denise gave me. But I didn't tell people that part. Not because I was ashamed. Just because I didn't need to anymore. Some stories don't have to be repeated. They just have to be remembered. Denise came by on move-in day. She brought a toolbox and a flathead screwdriver, grinning like she actually knew how to use either. Where do you want me? She asked. Far away from anything electric, I said. She laughed. We painted the kitchen together. Burned the toast twice. Got high on fumes and low on childhood memories. She told me about her new job, nonprofit work, part-time, less glamorous but more honest. I told her about the regular who tipped me with tomatoes and the kid I was thinking of mentoring from the high school. We didn't talk about the house. The old one. Not directly. But somewhere between taping trim and eating pizza on the floor, she said it. You deserved more than what I gave you. I nodded. We both did. She leaned back against the fridge. Do you think Mom and Dad would be proud of us now? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I looked around at the messy kitchen, the scuffed floors, the unfinished light fixtures. And then at her. Tired, humbled, but finally real. Yeah, I said. I think they'd say we turned out all right. She smiled. You know what the wildest part is? What? I used to think being the responsible one meant never messing up. But maybe it's just owning it when you do. We clinked soda cans. That night, after she left, I stood out on the porch alone. The wind was soft. The kind that makes you believe maybe, just maybe, things really do heal. The house behind me wasn't perfect, but neither was I. And finally, that didn't scare me anymore. Because family isn't who gets the house. It's who shows up when it's time to rebuild. And this time, we both did.